Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a colouring tag. I know I haven't done one of these for ages, so I'm sorry to a few people that may have tagged me and things. I'm just so far behind, but the lovely Amberle Silencia tagged me, I think it's a month ago actually now, in the hashtag junejux colouring tag, and that is to go through your colouring journey. So this tag was created by Simple Art for Adults a few years ago now. It's an older tag, so I will pop her down below along with the wonderful Amberle Silencia. If you haven't seen Amberle's channel or videos, they are amazing and definitely a must watch. Her pictures are beautiful and she really kind of walks you through the process, should I say, wrong words, of how to achieve those gorgeous results. So this tag is to essentially go through, you know, your colouring, how you started, how you've progressed, your colouring story as such. So for me, I've not been colouring that long. I'm not kind of a long time colourer, crafter person. In fact, I'm a gamer. I've been a gamer most of my adult life. It's my main hobby. It's something I spend a lot of time on, something I do a lot. I'm a collector, I'm a gamer. I play, you know, I used to play MMOs and things like that, so I used to online game and stuff like that. I don't do that anymore because it sucks up your soul. But just before, you know, the craziness that was the big C, I'll not say it because I think YouTube notices it, started back in March 2020, just as the whispers and the rumours were starting. I work in medical, so we were probably a bit more aware of things that were happening than maybe, you know, the general population a bit later on. But we did close for 8 weeks at the beginning of the very first lockdown, because obviously, you know, we weren't facilitated with the necessary equipment to be able to work in what we now class as the new world, medical environment. So it took 8 weeks for everything to be kind of revamped and changed in my workplace. And I'm going to be 40 next month, and I've worked my entire life. I've had 1, 2, 3 jobs at a time, worked many hours in a week, never had any time off. I don't have children, so I've never had maternity time or you know, a space off where I've been sick or unwell or injured. So from being kind of 13 years old to, you know, that present day, I'd worked many hours every week as my normal life. And so it came as quite a strange time for me to have all this time on my hands, and not really know what to do with myself. Obviously, we were very uncertain at that time whether we'd be going back to work, when we'd be going back to work. I'm self-employed, so we also didn't know if we would get any financial help, or, you know, it wasn't the kind of job market where you could go get a different job or get a new job or do very much at all. So we were just a little bit stuck in a limbo, and it was a very new thing to have to deal with. So a couple of people that I knew suggested, you know, taking up a crafty hobby, and, you know, I started having a look at things, and I bought myself a couple of colouring books because I thought, well, that can't harm. Adult colouring was already quite a big thing by then, maybe not quite as big as it is now. It's kind of taken off like a rocket, but you know, there was plenty of things available, plenty of supplies, books, artists out there, and of course the YouTube colouring community already existed, although I hadn't found that quite yet. And I got myself a couple of books. I got, of course, like everyone does, a couple of Joanna Basford books. I first purchased Enchanted Forest and Secret Garden. I got myself a Kirby Rose Annis book because obviously I didn't quite understand what would be a good idea to start with, and clearly I'd lost my entire living mind, and I went straight to crazy, and I just got a couple of books to start with, and I believe, it's hard to remember, even though it's only, well, just about 2.5 years ago now, I guess, isn't it? I believe I got myself a couple of packets of the Black Widows to start with, and obviously they come in little breakdown sets, so I think I had like the Cobra and the Black Widow set of Black Widows, and I very quickly added the big set of Arteza expert pencils to those, just because I wanted more colour, as you do, and that is where my colouring journey began, and why, and probably what began, you know, a love for life for me, something that, you know, I mean, well, you guys know, about 6 months after that, I was so into the adult colouring and the YouTube community that I decided to go crazy, bite the bullet, and upload some videos to YouTube, which isn't something I've ever really thought to do before for any other hobby. So yeah, I did that, and that began my love of what is a wonderful hobby, a wonderful community, and a wonderful well, social existence in some way as well. I've met many wonderful friends and ladies and gents and people that are in my life now that were not there before through this hobby and this channel. So enough of that, let's actually get started. So the whole point of this is to show our colouring progression and where we started, you know, and how we improved and where we're at. So one of my first books was Enchanted Forest. My main problem starting when I started colouring is obviously not really knowing what I liked, and I kept starting pages and then starting something else. So I did that, and I did that, and I'll be honest, I actually finished the bottom half of this page much later, about a year later. This little owl is one of the first, you know, kind of things that I coloured, and it really, because he looked kind of cool, I was very pleased with myself. I'm still pleased with him even now after all this time, that I managed to achieve a 3D faded pretty look to him. There's things I'd do different, there's things I'd change, but I'm very happy with him even after all this time. I very quickly realised I didn't have the kind of patience or time for a pencil background. So I started to colour myself a pencil background and very quickly realised I can't live that life. I can't do it. I'm not built that way. I need to turn my big light off, guys. Bear with me just to sort the lighting out. There we go. That's better. It affects the exposure. So very quickly realised that it just doesn't do it for me. So most of my early pages, and even some now, have no background at all because I wasn't feeling it. And you know, my early pages, there's nothing like truly bad or awful about them. You know, I was already from the very beginning using different colours and shading and adding depth and blending into different areas and creating shadow and tone and trying to work on texture. I'm a very intense person in the things that I learn. I want to learn them well, I want to learn them right, I want to learn them fast, I want to be good, I want to progress and learn new skills. So I can be a little bit extra in what it should be a relaxing hobby really, and I have learnt to put a little bit less pressure on myself and calm down about these things. But yeah, and don't get me wrong, you know, there's some truly terrible pictures in my early arsenal. This had a red background in pastel soft pastel that I removed because I hated it so bad. And for every element of a page that I think, oh, I would not do that again, you know, I'm still proud of something like this. Was my first attempt at toning gemstones, and I'm pleased with that. I very quickly learnt I don't like to just use flat colour. This is just glitter gel pen, and it's not my kind of thing. I would have much preferred this to look textured and to have darkened out certain areas in pencil. I'm very much a pencil colourist. You know, I've done bits and pieces. I love the greenery here. My problem was, I even showed you how to do this, how to fade out these sun rays in an early tutorial that I did. But then my issue was, I couldn't be bothered. I've never finished it. I've never come back and finished the page because I just hate laying down a pencil background. And I would do this very differently now. I've got this little page and I'm happy with it, I'm pleased with it. My colours are starting to improve, my colour theory is starting to get a little bit more sensible, but again, this would look amazing with a background, it would finish it off. There's more tone and colour choices I would have added to this, into this now, but you know, that's a whole part of our journey and how we're learning and how we start out. And obviously, you know, we buy better pencils as we go along and we find the pencils that we like to work with. I started out with softer wax pencils and very quickly found that I actually prefer a firmer oil pencil. So, you know, they're not bad. Again, I'm adding texture into my leaves. I've got some shading and shadow and they're looking like, you know, they've got dimension to them. As I said, I quickly learned that I prefer the vines to be done, you know, in pencil and to add texture and tone to them. So there's no gel pen bits and pieces on here. But yeah, you know, they're not awful. They're not amazing, but I'm, you know, each one is a lesson, is the enjoyment that I got while doing it. You know, it's still, when I open them, they bring a smile to my face. I can, you know, look at them and not think, oh, yuck, what was I doing? I can think, well, you know, I've improved since then and I do this or that better. Again, no background, because I just wouldn't have done that then. I was immediately completely put off by the idea of a pencil background. I think I've done all of about 2, but you can see a little bit of shading and a little bit of shadow and, you know, a little bit of texture to them. You know, I've got some folds and pleats in her clothes, and we've tried to make the hat look like it's a little bit circular, and we've got different colours in the hair, so there's bits and pieces starting to, I'm learning. I was watching YouTube by this point, seeing people's pages and even watching tips and techniques. This is the Crazy Imagimorphia that I thought was a good idea as one of my earlier books to get. And this is probably the first one that I felt a real sense of accomplishment. This is a really early page of mine, and to be honest, I was so pleased with this. I'm still very proud of this page. I'd be prouder if I finished it, because this is what I've actually found was my journey. As my pictures have progressed and my styles progressed and I've coloured more, I think I've learnt more colour theory than I have colouring technique. I've got better at seeing a page and deciding which colours I want to use and picking colours and combinations and tones, and that's what I've really improved on. A lot of my pages earlier on look very fragmented, very bitty. I've got colours that don't quite meld together in, you know, harmony with each other, and it makes for this very jarring, disjointed page that, you know, it's actually that you're seeing that makes you think, oh, that it looks okay, but it doesn't look right. And this, you know, I've got all my shading, I've meticulously worked through all the different metal tone textures, I've added shadow, I've tried to give him depth depth and, you know, make it so that his ironworks are standing out. I've gone as metallic as I could. Everything's in pencil, so all that metal that you see has been created from the page. And I'm so pleased with him. And yet I could not finish him because I couldn't pick the colours that were going to finish him off and complement him and go with what was an easy thing to build, because metal's metal, it needed to be greys and silvers, and it was easily picked for me. And then as I needed to pick colour for myself, I immediately didn't like this. Immediately just didn't get it quite right and stopped the page. And I'm saving this for when I know I can create on the page what is in my head for this guy. And don't get me wrong, you know, I'll fix it, I'll sort it out. I'm pleased with it, I love it. I'm very proud that this is an early piece. But I still don't feel ready to finish, and so I'm leaving him. I've not touched him. He's not an abandoned page. He's an old page. I believe I did this like 2 years ago now. But you know, he'll be done eventually. He will. I love him very much. He's not been abandoned. I'm just not ready to fix him and finish him. But I learned a lot doing this page, and this is where my confidence started, because I look at this page, there's no other way to say it other than to sound a bit conceited. I look at this page and it looks beautiful. He looks skillfully done. And that's the first time that I'd finished something like that and thought, wow, actually that looks like I kind of know what I'm doing. I can be proud of him. He's really good. And I still think he's probably one of the best pictures I've ever done. Half of. And I really hope one day he will be completed. But yeah, that was around the time where I was considering kind of entering the social media world. I'd been watching some YouTube, watching people's channels, learning a little bit about the community, and starting to collect enough confidence to maybe share and show. So another very early book of mine is a Rita Berman, De Welt under de Loop, the Land. And again, they're not awful pictures, they're not amazing pictures. You'll see no background. You won't see a lot of colour depth in my earlier pages. This is pretty much how everyone starts out. Real shade and colour and contrast come with confidence and come later. I'm already, you know, starting to show some shape in my pictures, some tone, some starting to plane, create white edges and veins, and you can just see in little bits and pieces you know, my confidence starting to build up and my skill level just starting to come a little bit up from the base level. Again, no background because I wasn't there. Again, you know, the colour choices, they're all very bright, they're all a little bit too much, they're all fighting each other because they're all too dominant. I was still following the rules, you know, there's not more than 4 different colours on there, but they were a bit much altogether. The blue's not harmonious with the pink and the orange, it's too much, it's too dark. You can see I'm shading, I'm leaving highlights, I'm starting to play with, you know, kind of trying to make my little flowers look like pansies and look like the leaves, the petals are folding back. Just starting to play. My leaves are very bland, they're just 2 different colours, 2 different sides, so you know I'm still very early in trying to learn those kind of techniques that I use now. And the real thing is that, you know, as I've gone along, I would add more colour to this now. I would have more greens in my blends, I'd have more orange in my blend. I wouldn't have added a blue. I'd have stuck with the pink and orange. I'd have made my flowers lighter and more realistic looking, paler, and my greenery have more depth. And I would stick a background on there because, you know, I found wonderful things to use them with that I can do. So this was a prompt for a colouring challenge, so he had to go on there. This is the picture where I decided a pencil background is not in my future. This is a very early colour along on my channel. We did this over 3 parts together. This is a Ruth Sanderson Snow Princess, and it's grayscale. These are grayscale pages. I learned a lot from grayscale early in. I still use grayscale now, especially when I'm trying new things. You can see there's no confidence yet to my skin. I've gone with very, very pale colours just to make it, you know, as easy as possible. My fur's starting to look a little bit better. Grayscale always really helps learn things like that. Fur and hair and texture and highlight. But this background was pencil. Blue pencil. I threw everything at this thing, trying to get it smooth, trying to get it right. I even threw my brew at it by accident. And it took me a long time, and it drained the actual life and soul out of me, to be honest, and I definitely wouldn't do it again. I eventually got myself some Zest-It for this and smoothed it out that way, and probably wish I'd have thought of it sooner in, just to at least get the pencil smooth or smoother. It's not the smoothest thing you've ever seen. It looks better in camera. Everything always does. In person, you can see kind of where the colours meet a little bit more. But you know, I'm proud of the page. I love the page. It was a labour of love. I don't hate the page. There's things I'd do differently. I'd be a bit braver about. But I really learned some fun new textures. This was my first like really nice looking fur. The first time I'd attempted lace or like translucent see-through fabric effects. And she did come out looking, you know, really beautiful, to be honest. But again, you know, would you do things differently as you learn? Yes, you would. Is that the whole point of learning? Yes, it is. We have my ever faithful secret garden. This is where I come to play and learn. This is my first kind of goes at some of the background stuff that I got. So I got myself a couple of blending inks and had a play, and didn't like how I got the texture. Now at the time, what was I using to blend these out? I was using something that wasn't quite as smooth as the blending brushes that I use now, so it was a little bit more difficult. Again, I don't hate it. I like how I got it. I basically made it look like I'd purposely added texture and that I didn't want to get it smooth, even though it's not really what I wanted. But I love the way the page turned out in the end. And then we have this monstrosity. But, you know, again, I was playing and learning, and I did manage to get a much smoother effect. Again, not brave, but I've added some red and orange and yellow. Created a beautiful bee, wasp and bee on there. That's probably the best bit of the page. I don't hate the page. I don't like the page. But again, it was a learning experience. My background's starting to get a little bit smoother. I'm starting to add more colour. And starting to prefer, you know, to see that rather than that wide open space. And then the last one I tried this, and this is one of my very, very early plays at gel crayon. So to be honest, the point where I found gel crayons is the point where I learned to love my page in its entirety. This is the point where backgrounds became an achievable, doable concept to me. Don't get me wrong, this early attempt is just abominable. I had a few issues with texture, so then I built texture into the page like I'd done it on purpose, whereas really it's where I first put my brush down and it wasn't smooth. You know, a lesson learned. I never did that again. But again, it's just learning and progressing and admitting that not everything you create is going to be amazing and beautiful and break records, but that it's worth keeping and having and flipping through and seeing later and remembering what it is that you learned and improved on. Hope you guys don't find this completely boring. I always worry about these kind of videos that nobody really wants to know how my colouring's improved, to be honest. That brings me to, you know, kind of my more middle works, just random pages that I've done, just slowly learning and playing and trying. This is a very early water-based marker attempt, very quickly learned, don't like the way that looks at all. This is probably my first attempt at kind of a weaved fabric, and she didn't turn out awful. I do quite like that. The fur, terrible, disgusting, but in its entirety I love the page. I love the texture I managed for the walls. I'm just starting to learn to, you know, let the light affect the environment. You can see it on her nose and that light on the leaf, and just starting to learn technique and light sources and bits and pieces. This was a pencil background, a very early pencil background. This is probably, yeah, so I think I have done about 2. Again, I mean, I hate this background. Couldn't quite get the colours to blend into each other. Just not because you can't do it, because I don't have the patience to do it. To spend the time and get it right and do it. But you know, the shading's there, the picture I do like in itself. I love the light effect that I managed to create, you know, that I'm shining light on objects in the room and letting it change the colour tone. Again, I do a lot of things differently now, and I'd have more lightness in it, more depth in it, more shadow to it, but you know, for an early page, not displeased with it. And this is the first time I laid marker down as a base. I love the mice themselves, but you know, by then I was fed up. I get bored as I get to the bigger bits. I like a detailed page because I don't like big open spaces. So I slapped some black acrylic down. I think this might have been the first time I tried that, to be honest. I popped some stars in there, and then I just thought, now what? I can't be bothered colouring the pumpkin. So I pulled out an orange and a green marker, laid it down, and then just popped a little bit of shading over the top. And to be honest, now, you know, I'd have brown on this, green on this, a bit of purple on this. I'd come really dark into the creases and really light and bright orange into the centerpieces, and I'd add some tone and texture and depth to that. But you know, it was my first go. I've had a little bit of a go. I've added a bit of shading. I've tried. I've played. I've experimented. You can already see where my green improved over my orange because I did that second. I've gotten a little bit braver with a bit of depth with it, and it's still not quite there, but it's improving. You know, every page, every practice, it's like any skill. If you colour every day, you will improve, you will get better. From there, I got a couple of kind of really fun, beautiful books. And I have this Fairy Miracles page. Again, as you see, no background, but I am very pleased with the elements on this page. At this point, I'd got myself, well, As a gift, I got the polychromos, the Faber-Castell polychromos, and this was the first time playing and trying those, and those pencils lay down absolutely beautifully on this paper. And you know, I'm just starting to play with adding more tones in, so there's red and orange and yellow instead of just different shades of red. I love these bees. I made them look a little bit furry. I kind of whited out the black lines to them, started to play, and it is early progress, but you know, I'm still just starting to get a little bit more colour depth, a little bit more brave with my texture on things. And then we've got this junejux, and I do love this page. I've not been at all brave with her skin. These were early kind of portraits for me, were very flat, very plain. I was quite scared of people. I find it much easier to colour fur than I do to colour skin. So there's no contrast, there's no depth really to her. I've played it very, very safe with her skin is what's happened. I love her hair. This is actually two different colour blends. There's actually a ginger tone and a red tone to different parts of her hair. I like how that turned out. I love the dress. I love how I finally kind of added a little bit of bravery. I've gone a very dark orangey yellow all the way up to a white cream and really added some texture and tone and different colour into there to create a little bit more interest. I clearly ran out of bravery when it came to my leaves, but the dress really pops, is really striking because I've added that contrast in, and I'm just starting to learn, you know, which colours are going to meld well together to create something that looks a little bit more polished, a little bit more cohesive on the page, things that are going to go together instead of clash. Do wish I'd have added a background, but again, clearly wasn't living that life there. And then we have my Coloriage Wild. I did this quite some time ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I told you the Kirby Wars Alice page was the first time I felt I'd created something truly skillful, truly kind of, you know, something I could show other people and be proud of. And this is the first time I ever coloured something and felt like I'd managed to achieve the image in my head on the page, that I'd actually managed to take the picture of the lilies. We were ignoring the terrible skin. I improve a little bit with this later, but I'm so proud of the tiger lilies on this page. Again, you know, I've got so much braver with the contrasting colour, the textures there. Flowers, if you look up close to them, they have like a stripy kind of effect to their colour. Flowers are never even, they're created in nature, so they're not perfect, they're not straight, every petal won't match. And I really feel like you can see the shape and the depth and the folds in these. And it's definitely the first piece that I felt true pride. I still love these flowers. I'm still very proud of these flowers. Again, would I do them a little bit differently and add like more brown into the depth of these? Yes. But would I actually come in here and change anything about this right now if I had a pencil in my hand? Absolutely not. Because I still open this page and feel the exact same feelings I did when I finished it. The pride, the happiness, just truly contented. And don't get me wrong, I mean, her skin is horrendous. Horrendous. I had a bit of trouble finding the right pencils for the paper. That is why I do my pencil paper series. Truly horrendous. And yet, it's not what I see when I open this page. I only see those flowers. I mean, you know, it's probably because I'm just blocking this out, but you know, it doesn't matter that that page isn't perfect. It matters that when I look at it, it matters what I see, you know. It doesn't matter to me that people might put in the comments, you know, "Ooh, well, she looks crap." It doesn't matter. Nobody will ever be able to take away the feeling of pride I had when I did this page and the feelings it evokes when I open this page. And that is also why I like to work from books. I don't copy pages, I don't use PDFs, I like to have my books. I don't know if that's because I'm a big reader and I like physical books. I like physical everything. I'm a physical game collector. I like real books. I like to have a colouring book and not a stack of pages. But yeah, sorry guys. See, and once I actually talk about the stupid stuff, I never really stop. This video wasn't quite supposed to be this long, so I will get a move on. Because I've clearly picked too many pages. So, you know, you can see my style evolves and grows as I go. I improve. My early work I'm not wonderfully proud of, but it's still not something that, you know, if somebody was looking through my bookcase and pulled one of them off, I'd hide. I mean, I've just shown it on a video, for God's sake. So, again, you know, my fur's improving. I'm using grayscale to get a little bit braver with my skin. I'm still struggling in this. I mean, her clothes and the fur is beautiful. So proud of the way these looked on the page. Again, didn't touch the background. And her skin, there's parts where it's too orange, parts where it's too pink, parts where, to be honest, you know, it was the Amazon paper, just couldn't take any more pencil to get the effect that I wanted. But I love this page. I learned from this page. And I'm finally starting to try and play and learn and think, you know, I'll be honest, I think for the first year and a half, I completely avoided skin on pages. I just didn't colour them. I bought some of the books and I didn't colour them. I just pretended they weren't there. Now this is where my gel crayons have really kind of changed the game for me, really allowed me to play with background colour and to just feel like my pages are finally finished, finally what I want them to be. I love gel crayons. I don't wet them, I use them dry, I blend them with a brush, but they just give you such vibrant, fun colour choices that don't take me very long to do. I did not spend 3 weeks working on that background. I spent probably about 30 minutes. And that's what I need from something. I see people create beautiful, amazing pictures with a pencil background. They spend a lot of time on it. They're fabulous. They're so realistic. And if I could, I would love to, but it's just not in me to do it. Again, a little bit braver. I'm just starting to add a little bit more depth to, you know, the grayscale, to the skin tone. A little bit more detailed starting to be added in, which is something grayscale is really wonderful for, to help you kind of with, you know, the nerves of it, being brave enough to add those little details in and play my backgrounds in. I'm starting to play with light with my background and really kind of start to enjoy myself. Don't get me wrong, my backgrounds don't always succeed. I have this one. Hate this background. Decided to try and splash some white for stars. Did not work. Went all over everything. I had to wipe stuff off and chip stuff off. The pencils didn't lay well on this paper. It took me forever to do. And yet I still really love the way I did her skin and her hair. And even though I'm not keen on the rest of the page, I'm still very proud. I gave her a collarbone. Don't know if you can see that. I'm going to bring you in. I'm so proud of this. I'm going to bring you in and show you the details I added. That I actually added a little collarbone in behind there. You know, we've given her the insides of her elbows there. Just starting to add little details in that I was a little bit nervous to do before. And, you know, in the grand scheme of the page, do you really notice them? Probably not. I noticed them, I know they're there, I know I learnt them. I kind of don't hate this page, but I don't love it. I do like her hair, but oh, I really fought with that page. And then finally, that brings us to kind of, you know, nearer to now. I have Worlds Within Worlds. I did this as a colour along with you guys. I think it might be 3 parts because mine are always really long. But that's the difference, you know. My early blending has a lot more bravery to it now. There's a lot more depth in the shadows, and it comes up a lot lighter. I'm using more texture and colour. You know, a lot paler to contrast with the darker colours, and I'm able to use the gel crayons to create these kind of smoky sky backgrounds, even added in some smog. I'm really pleased with this page. I'm quite proud. It took me a while, they always do, but I really enjoyed doing this one with you guys, and can really see the difference and the progress from my early pages in this. Right, last couple. So that then brings us to this guy, another more recent page. You can see I'm starting to add browns into my greens, which I never did before. My blends are getting that little bit softer and smoother, and I'm finally starting to add a little bit depth to my skin, being a little bit braver, adding a bit more brown, a bit more tone. And I'm really starting to play with the eyes, starting to improve. My eyes have improved quite a lot the last few months. I've been trying to really try out new different techniques and bits and pieces with things and enjoying it. And then last book, I love this book. Again, you can see she's a weird skin tone, but she's not bad. There's plenty of contrast in the pink, a lot of highlight to her hair. She goes all the way from dark to light. I've got the little bits of reflection of the pink in the eyes. Just those little details that you start to notice as you colour and add. This is a very recent one, and I'm really pleased with how she turned out. Pleased with the skin, I love the hair, I love this highlight, and I really love the water and the brick. As weird as it is, I'm most proud of the stone around this well. Proud of the red and the brown that I added, that are colours that it'd have been grey, because that's what stone is. Early in my colouring journey, I'd have shaded and toned it, but I wouldn't have thought to add those extra colours. You can see that the page is a lot more harmonious in the colours I've chosen, and therefore it looks smoother and more calm when you're viewing it. I still do like this. I did this a while ago. I was just starting to practice water droplets and different effects, and then I think I have one more in here that is also very recent. Again, another colouring tutorial with you guys. A couple of these are. I think I did a translucent fabric and fairy wings with you guys. I love this. I love that, you know, we're starting to create different kinds of fabric. Her skin is a lot braver. It's got a lot more depth. I'm finally starting to come into this more medium skin tone instead of them being pale all the time. My mushrooms have kind of true shadow to them, all the way up to that kind of nice bright edge that they have. My flowers aren't taking over the page. They're not overly dark, they're not overly bright. I've not put a load of different colours in so they don't take over the true image, which is her. I love this turquoise colour combination, to be honest. I use that quite a lot. I like the way her eyes turned out. And, you know, just colours that I've used that I wouldn't have used before. Even down to her wings, they're very pale, so, you know, you barely notice them, that they're just there in the background, and yet I've put a lot of detail, a lot of texture into them. And feel like, you know, she from her to my early Enchanted Forest page. In fact, yeah, let's do it. let's compare, you know, early page to late page. This sums up my colouring journey from beginning to end. In just a couple of years, I feel like I've come a long way. I've learned a lot of new skills, a lot of new techniques. It hasn't escaped my notice that she does not have a background. So, you know, I haven't escaped my own laziness, but I have improved my colouring. So what more can you ask for? I hope this was in some way interesting, although a little bit long, that you kind of learn a little bit about me and my why, and that you can see the improvement that I see, and that maybe it helps you a little bit with how you feel about your own journey. I'd love to see you guys pull out some of your early works and some of your newer works and really see the process and the progress and the achievements that you've made as you've journeyed and travelled. I don't know that I'm going to tag anyone, because it's an old tag anyway, but I'm late to the game even from when Amberle's tagged me, so everyone I know's probably been tagged already. But I leave this completely open. If you decide to do this colouring tag and you have a channel, consider yourself tagged. You can use me as your tagger. I have no problem with that. Tag me so I can come watch your video and see your journey. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you enjoy the channel, please do subscribe. And happy colouring, guys. I will see you in the next one.